content out there and hope for the best and hope something sticks.
We're actually quite fortunate that we're actually in this chapter of the gaming industry.
Sustainability in terms of how we think about our players, we think about our industry and how we build our businesses.
What comes next? We are going into a TV direction.
It's about pushing yourself out of that comfort zone.
We focus more on a community level.
In regulated markets, the operators only want to work with really the big affiliate companies.
How can we contribute to society in a way that we can limit the negative impact, but also maximize a positive contribution?
You know the history, you know how this customer ticks.
It's a long-term game in the markets that you enter.
Good morning to one and all. Welcome to the second day of iGaming Next Online Bright Future presented by Push Gaming. As expected, day one was a day full of enthralling and insightful content, and today's agenda, sponsored by One Touch, is no exception, where we will be diving into the intriguing world of marketing and emerging tech. To kick off the day, we'd like to welcome to the digital stage our trusty partner, One Touch.
Hello everyone and welcome to the day 2 of iGaming Next Bright Future. To start with, for those who do not know me, my name is Petra Maria Bola and I'm Head of Business Development at One Touch, which is a leading mobile games provider. During yesterday's event, I was fascinated to hear the insights from the colleagues throughout the industry about today's biggest gambling trends and the bright future ahead of us. With everyone talking about the US, it was great to learn more about the country's impact on our industry. With some of the gambling's biggest names getting even bigger, we listened to a panel of experts discuss mergers, dominance, and market share. One of the prominent topics lately has been the new dynamic of working remotely. The pandemic has changed the strategy of many companies, and it has also shown to the management that flexibility is sustainable, efficient, and maybe even cost-effective. Many of the iGaming companies are considering not going back to the office once the pandemic is over. This has definitely opened up a new way of seeing things, and it has also provided the opportunity to experience different ways to collaborate, secure remote access, cloud infrastructures, automation, and the online experience required to support any remote operations. Those looking for the next lucrative opportunity will have been interested to hear about which iGaming stocks are most likely to skyrocket. With investment in gambling experiencing a meteoric rise, it is safe to say that the next big thing might be just around the corner. By now, most of you are quite familiar with the negative stories that are sometimes written about our industry. That's why yesterday's discussion on how to end the stigma around gambling industry was another worthy listen, in case you missed it. In fact, if you missed any of yesterday's talks, you can still watch them on iGaming Next YouTube channel. Like so many others, the iGaming community has experienced a really tough year. All over the world, different kinds of betting shops and land-based casinos had to close down because of the coronavirus restrictions. Unfortunately, some of the businesses have sadly also closed down. That said, however, the vaccine rollouts worldwide allow us to glimpse the light at the end of the tunnel. It has been a very long road, but the future is looking bright. With that in mind, today's agenda includes some of the iGaming's most interesting topics. we'll be discussing what 5G technology means for our industry, how the gambling community can benefit from growing the popularity of NFTs, the rise of cryptocurrencies, and so much more. We'll hope you will join us, and thank you for listening.
Good morning, and thank you, Petra, for those great opening remarks. And we are indeed very excited for the second day here at iGaming Next Online Bright Future. But before we dive headfirst into the content of today, I wanted to bring up a bit of controversy from yesterday. After we finished the first day of the event yesterday, an email was sent out with the supposed highlights of the day, bringing to light 4 of the sessions that we hosted. It just so happened to be 4 sessions with male-dominated panels, highlighting 12 guys and 0 women, which is only made more ironic because of the message of inclusion and diversity of several of the panels yesterday. We noticed these mistakes within minutes and immediately sent out another email in order to highlight all sessions. However, the fact that the email went unnoticed is a cause for us to look into our own routines. You know, it's funny. We've taken pride as an organization which has been predominantly women-led for years. And we do prioritize to use the platform that we have created in order to lift the important questions of diversity, equality, and inclusion. And still, we ourselves manage to screw up. In the end, though, this is an opportunity to improve and to learn. And while it of course stings to find yourself in the middle of controversy, in the long run, by bringing this to light, it will mean positive change, not only for us, but also for the continued progress towards diversity and inclusion within the iGaming industry at large. And if we truly want to be a positive force for the industry, like we say we do, we should also be prepared to own up to our own mistakes. So please accept my apologies to those who rightfully raised an eyebrow for that email yesterday. All right, with that said, Alice, I am extremely excited for the second and final day here at iGaming Next Online. And I'm very curious to hear about the incredible sessions that we have in front of us. Can you tell us more?
Yes, of course I can. I'm also really excited about today. So we have a lot on the agenda. Today it's all about technology and emerging marketing. So we have a lot to look forward to. So some areas that we will cover is the US market. We will talk about crypto and cryptocurrencies' impact on the future of iGaming. We're going to talk about NFTs and gaming. We're going to talk about technology as a competitive advantage in the US. We're going to talk about customer acquisition and retention in the US. We're going to talk about the future of digital marketing. And then we're going to finish the day with some machine learning and AI discussions. So a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited. It's a bit sad it's the last day though. But Pierre, what are you looking forward to today? What are some of the panels you are most excited about?
Yeah, thanks, Alice. I mean, the entire day today is just packed with incredibly interesting panels, like from beginning to the very end. But there's particularly 2 sessions that I'm really excited for. And first of all, we have the great NFT debate between gaming and NFTs that I'm very excited for. Partly because, you know, I'm a bit of a crypto nerd, let's say, recently, and I'm really into NFTs and the discussion around that. But also the fact that, you know, the debate format is so underestimated for these type of sessions that we are hosting today. And so I think, you know, the fact that we can host a debate format rather than just a normal panel is something that it will be exciting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah.
You know? And then secondly as well, I'm super excited as well for the 5G panel. And I think 5G in general is a technology that is going to change the world in ways we can't imagine yet. You know, when 3G was launched, it was very difficult to predict that would lead to the social media revolution, for example. It would lead to the iPhone and other technologies that we see today. And I think 5G will change the world again. So those are two sessions that I'm very excited for.
Exciting. I'm also looking forward to these two sessions that you mentioned, but also the industry insight later today, the future of digital marketing. So that is going to be a chat with Michael Peterson, who is a non-executive shareholder here at iGaming Next. And he's going to talk about the latest trends and challenges across the media space, together with Chris Harrison, who's industry head at financial trading and e-gaming at Google. So they're going to have an in-depth conversation about keywordless search, the US market, and they're gonna ask themselves if YouTube deserves more respect as a brand building business. So that's something I'm really looking forward to later today as well. Guys, today is a new day. That means that we have new polls, fresh new polls, ready for you guys to vote on in the platform, right, Pierre?
Yes, we do, Alice.
Yes, we do. Me and Pierre, we will keep track of these polls and announce some results from the polls around midway today. And again, guys, keep asking questions in the live comment section, keep commenting, and our panelists and speakers will see all these questions and comments and do their best to answer your questions live. So first up today, we have a panel coming up. 5G will accelerate player engagement beyond $100 billion. That's the title, so quite a title there. Joining this panel is Ushin Luni, podcast host, journalist, and event MC. He will be speaking together with Justin Bellinger, who is Chief Digital Officer at Shore International. Joining as well, this panel is Stuart Godfrey, who's Managing Director at M-Kodo. So that's gonna start off the day, and let's get this second day started, shall we, Pierre?
Let's do it, Alice.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's get the party started. Enjoy, guys, and we will see you in just a little bit.
Start with an impulse, a desire of a notion, that unstoppable urge to create something extraordinary. Your project started. iPoint International.
Thank you so much. Tack så mycket, Pierre and Alice. And it's thrilling to be here for day 2 of iGaming Next Online. My name's Ushin Lunny. I'm an event MC, a podcast host, a marketing consultant, and some other bits and pieces. Feel free to reach out on the socials or visit ushinlunny.com. Now, we are now going to talk about a very, very important issue, not just for the iGaming sector, but for every sector. 5G has been one of the most important innovations in the world of technology, certainly this decade. And it's been touted to revolutionize everything from eye surgery to remote working to enjoying HD media and video on the move. But what does 5G mean for the iGaming sector? Is 5G a solution in search of an iGaming problem, or will it transform the industry? Could 5G accelerate player engagement beyond $100 billion. Joining me today to discuss this fascinating issue are two very well-connected gentlemen who have some profound experience and expertise in the overlap between telecommunications, networks and iGaming. Please welcome to the iGaming Next online stage, Stuart Godfrey, who is the Managing Director at Encodo. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Oystein. Lovely to be here.
Great to see you, Stuart. And welcome to the stage, my old friend Justin Bellinger, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Shure International. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, Ocean. How are you? Good to see you.
Great to see you, man. Well, listen, thank you both so much for joining us. I sort of teased the audience there and said you both had profound expertise and experience, and that's completely true. But it's probably best if you relay this story in your own words. So, Stuart, do you want to tell our delegates at iGaming Next Online a bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and what it is you do that sits at this overlap between communications, networks, and iGaming?
Yeah, sure, of course I can. So I'm the Managing Director of Encodo. Encodo is a mobile app and mobile-first website development organization, predominantly in the betting and gaming and lottery industry. We've been in operation 20 years. I've actually been working in the mobile and telecom space for nearly 30 years. It kind of dates me. I'm probably one of the oldest people in this conference. I actually started off in the telecom space, actually in the SMS area, way back in fact, when the first Nokia phone, for those of you who probably don't remember, but Nokia came out with a phone that had this rather funny feature in it where you could send a message to somebody else with a Nokia phone. Those of you who do remember that, happy days. And I was actually in a restaurant in Paris, texting a colleague who had just received their Nokia 3510 or something. I can't even remember what the model was now. And that was when I first started to realize that the mobile phone wasn't a telephony device. It was something a lot more than that. And so I've been in that industry and working in that space basically since 1996. So that's my background.
Awesome. I'm a huge fan of SMS myself. I worked in a significant SMS company, and we worked with some of your colleagues at Encodo back in the day. I think it's an incredibly powerful medium, but that's another topic for another time. Justin, coming over to your good self, tell us a bit about your very interesting background, because you really have this overlap between networks, telecommunications, and the iGaming space.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've been in the industry in more or less the same company since the late 90s. So we built the internet backbone for the islands that we serve. I live in Guernsey, but my stomping grounds, Guernsey, Jersey, Isle of Man, and a few other bits and bobs, Falklands, South Atlantic, Diego Garcia, used to be Macau, used to be Panama. So our intro to the iGaming sector was in the late 90s. We were hosting companies under the Alderney licensing regime. That moved to Guernsey a few years later. So really been around right since the precursor to Sporting Bet had a 256k connection to the internet, and that's how they serve their customers. So the overlap between, well, there is no overlap. Telecoms and iGaming are intrinsically linked. So without a communications network, you can't get your products, your intellectual property out to your customer base. So we've been building solutions as an industry that cater for the really high demand that iGaming places on our network. It's very different to most other types of e-commerce, and it's very different to most other types of enterprise connectivity, because you need to guarantee uptime and you need to guarantee that really low latency. So we've been building stuff for that for a long, long time. So I've dipped in and out the industry on and off since the late 90s, Gigsy, Montreal, different conferences here, there and everywhere. So I'm thrilled to be asked back. Thanks, Richard.
Ah, fantastic. Great story there. Very interesting point about the overlap between iGaming and telecommunications. It's a Venn diagram that's basically a circle. One doesn't really exist without the other. So I just wanted to point out to our delegates, we are completely live. If you have any questions for Stuart and Justin, put them in the chat window or the Q&A, and they will be conveyed to us, and we'll do our best to address them. And if we don't, I'm sure Justin and Stuart will be happy to answer them directly by email or on LinkedIn or something else like that. So anyway, let's come back to the main topic, which is, of course, 5G. I'd be interested to get your take on what impact do you think 5G is going to have in the world at large? So not just in iGaming, but the whole shebang. Starting with yourself, Stuart.
It's really interesting because I've been looking at this. Obviously, from my background, I have a real interest in mobile, and I think one of the really interesting things is what was the penetration of 4G? So 4G has been the penetration has been quite sporadic. Some of it's been really, really good. Some countries have done an excellent job at deploying 4G based technologies, and others have been not so good. And some of the rationale behind that is they've been waiting for 5G. But I think what we're actually going to see with 5G is a much more significant and deeper penetrating investment by the mobile operators for several reasons. One is that the underlying technology of 5G actually helps the operator. I've lost screen, so I don't know if I've disappeared. Oh, okay,
Oops.
I'm back.
No, you're back. You're back. You're back in the room.
Yeah, I'm back.
3,
I'm
2,
back
1.
in the room. But I think the investment that I think a lot of the mobile networks, and this is probably something that Justin can actually speak to better than I am, but they've been waiting actually for this more transformational technology to come out. For 4G to some degrees has been a bit of a sticking plaster type of thing. But we are living in a very, very much more connected world now, more than anything, and I think actually the pandemic has demonstrated it. Just by virtue of this particular conference, is a really good example of how technology has suddenly transformed the way that we do business, but also how we do commerce. There was actually something on the news this morning about and it's not particularly surprising, is it really? But online retail has gone up fourfold over the last 12 months. It's no surprise, really, is it? But the only way you can buy anything has been sort of through Amazon or whoever. Other retail outlets do exist. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're becoming more and more connected. And in fact, if you think about it, if we had a pandemic like this 10 years ago, the world economy probably would have suffered astronomically worse than it did today, because pretty much everybody has some form of networking at home that allows them to communicate with people, i.e. broadband. But what 5G offers us potentially something beyond fixed line broadband. And I think that's where it's going to be really, really exciting. It's going to mean we're going to be in a much more connected world, irrespective of whether that's iGaming or whatever. But bear in mind now, we consume the majority of our private commerce through our mobile device, not our laptop or our desktop. The majority of people iGame on a mobile device. Anything that facilitates better connectivity surely is going to benefit that industry.
Yeah, well said. As The Economist coined the phrase, we have evolved into a species of Homo sapiens. Anything we can do on our mobile devices, we absolutely do. And, the fact that e-commerce has gone up fourfold since last year. At the beginning of last year, it did more growth in 3 months than it did in the previous 10 years. So we're really talking about an exponential growth curve there. But Justin, coming over to yourself, what does 5G mean to you in terms of its impact on the world? And that can include iGaming, of course.
I agree with Stuart. We're going to see a different rollout here. We're going to see, certainly at the moment, the way most of us are experiencing 5G is filling in the cities, filling in the gaps where density is required and network congestion is apparent. But let's look at how we would normally go about building a new mobile network. If I was going into any country or territory, first thing we do is we pick up the central business districts. That's where we're going to get the most. Then we build corridors from there to like the airport or on railway tracks, etc. So normally when we're rolling out a new network technology, we're going to pick up the city, pick up the commute, pick up the roaming traffic as it comes into the territory. What we're going to see with 5G, though, much the same as you've seen mobile technology in areas that aren't wired, so spots of India and Africa, we'll see 5G as a direct replacement for areas that are not fibered up. So fiber not spots. So as a alternate investment to more remote areas and really dense areas. So certainly that's what, through our trials, we were looking at 5G as a direct replacement to fiber. As it happens, we're going to be rolling out fiber in the meantime anyway, because you need that to power your mast. But I agree with Stuart. it's going to, in the iteration that we're seeing right now, which does rely on a 4G bit of infrastructure to keep it going, in the main part, that's going to change, and we're going to see this infrastructure replace fiber investment in some areas, definitely.
All right, fascinating. And you mentioned some potential use cases there. Coming back to yourself, Stuart, talk to us a bit about how you think 5G might change the iGaming industry. Are there any particular, quick win use cases, or is it too early to say? What's your take on iGaming and 5G?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, with any sort of iGaming type of product, you just want bandwidth, don't you? You just want a super fast responsiveness. But one of the things that we find when we develop our apps for our customers is the thing that kind of annoys the end user is any form of latency. They want, and a lot of the products now have a combination of video streaming or some sort of real-time live video feed. Whether it's a sporting event, lots of the sporting apps that we have now have complementary video streams. And one of the interesting things about particularly 4G technology and prior to that 3G technology was the tear up and tear down performance of the connection. In other words, how quickly your mobile phone could establish a network connection, an IP network connection, and then how quickly the network operator would tear that down if you're not using it because they want to use it for some other person. And so you get this kind of you get people fighting each other for capacity. And part of the value of 5G is that it's got and will have an extraordinarily fast process to establish the connection. And the idea is it's not always on, but it creates a connection so fast that you think you're permanently connected. And equally, when it tears it down, it's incredibly fast, but that's great because when it reestablishes it, it's really quick. So what that actually means to the end user is they see very little, if no latency. So they go to their mobile phone, they put some information and boom, they get the data instantaneously. It's like they were connected to a fiber broadband connection of a gigabit and beyond at home. So the improvement to the user experience is something that we're really looking forward to. The movement of data will be so much quicker and so much more elegant. It will just mean, of course, that people will move to their phone sapien new lifestyle. I like that. I'm going to use that forever now. But it just means it just means that whereas people used to think, well, actually, I'm not going to use my mobile for that because it's a bit slow and kludgy. It won't be there. And most of the fact why things are slow and kludgy is not necessarily the app, especially obviously not the apps written by Makoto, but it's actually the network connectivity is slow to establish, or in busy networks, etc. Those things will start to completely disappear when 5G starts to reach all the parts it needs to reach.
I tend to agree. So we're going to see an experience like you get at home, but on your mobile device, similar speeds, similar sort of low latencies. The other thing from an events or operator's perspective is the millions of devices per square kilometre. So that really changes, and it goes back to Stuart's point of tearing up and tearing down. If you're running a network in a stadium, you're going to see congestion. You have to put special parameters on your 4G or 3G network. You won't have that with 5G. So you can have interaction. Wow. 60,000 seater sports stadium, interaction with the crowd and the game in a very, very different way than you could do over a 4G network. And imagine that pushed out across the entire country. So again, covering off the density issue in the cities and in micro environments from a city perspective, like a stadium where we've got tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people connected at the same time. Lower latency is going to help with interacting with the sport or game that's on in the stadium naturally. And again, that's going to look more like a fiber connection. It's not going to help you get any closer to your sportsbook provider. Their kit's still going to be in Malta, Gibraltar, Alderley, Guernsey, wherever the kit is. But it's going to look more like you're connected to it by fiber.
Fantastic. So it's really kind of the last mile sort of becomes invisible, and the servers are in Malta, Gibraltar, wherever, but your connection to those servers is lightning fast. I mean, that was just in staying with yourself. That was a really interesting example of the sports stadium, and that's of course a place where iGaming services could be, transformational in terms of having that speed, that quality of media, that instantaneous interaction. Talk to us a bit about how 5G looks in the wild, and what kind of other situations do we think that will be advantageous for the iGaming space when 5G is deployed and you have that density and that just, almost no latency with the interactions?
So right now, 5G is just pretty much 4G on steroids. It lives on a 4G core. It's got a different antenna system, so access network is many more, but the guts of it is a 4G plus network. In a few places around the world, we're going to see this in the next generation. So there's 4, 5, half a dozen standalone cores live. So what that means is that's when we're going to start to see a radical change in what we can do with 5G. So that's where the low latency really starts to come into play. At the moment, we're still around the sort of 30 milliseconds, but when we shave that down, we're going to be in a situation whereby a 5G network could run a platoon of trucks, no problem at all. I mean, United Arab Emirates have just licensed pilotless drones to fly. That will be using 5G infrastructure, same as there's a pilotless 5G ferry in Sweden. So that low latency, the reason that's important and enables things like autonomous vehicles is the time it takes from the decision to say brake that's made by the bit of AI in the platform and the brakes actually being actuated. The latency dropped from say 30 milliseconds to 5 milliseconds. That means hundreds of meters of braking distance on the road, right? So what that means also is it gives us the ability to move our decisions closer to the place that the decisions are being made. So we're talking about compute on the edge of the network, building infrastructure really, really close to the antenna that are providing the signal to the devices that's making the choices. So very, very important when it comes to vehicles, equally important when it comes to remote surgery. I mean, I'd be pretty keen that if my eye surgeon based in Harley Street and I'm here in Guernsey was performing a procedure, that whatever he or she was doing over there happened quite quickly, like instantaneously, whilst the scalpel's hovering around my eyeball. So there's that. Yeah. And like I say, this density is a very, very important thing. And I'm sure a little bit later on we'll touch on security as well. Stuart mentioned the always on, no tear up, tear down. And the security is vastly improved in a 5G network in terms of that handshaking experience. Each generation of a mobile technology improves on that. So we've got to wait a little while, not long. As I say, there's up to half a dozen commercial networks on a standalone core right now, which will have all these enhanced features. For the rest of us, we're going to get fiber-like connectivity today, so massively increased speeds and lower latency, but not as low as the standalone will be in the future.
Wow, but that's super interesting. The security is, I'd love to come back to that a bit later. Thank you, Justin. And coming over to yourself, Stuart, now, esports are obviously a very big deal at the moment. Streaming media is absolutely massive. It's just gone through the roof during the pandemic because everyone's been at home. Do you think that 5G could accelerate more integration between streaming media and esports into the iGaming space? And what do you think that might look like?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's going to esports is growing so greatly. It's huge. I mean, it's becoming one of the main markets. I think one of the other reasons why esports is growing so much is betting on sports is quite a conventional product. It also has a lot of barriers to entry, and we do quite a lot of work in the betting on sports type of arena. And the people who predominantly use betting on sports types of products are very familiar with betting on sports products, and you might say, well, yeah, of course. So that creates an innate barrier for people who haven't got familiarity with betting on sports. They come into these products and find these rather complex products, whereas esports are not like that. They're much more accessible and amenable to these people. They understand them. They come from that culture, and so that's one of the reasons why it's got huge growth. And again, it's heavily data driven. Anything that's data driven is going to just fall perfectly into a 5G world. And the other thing about esports, which obviously irritates me immensely as being an old person on the panel, is that esports is a younger person's, a younger demographic product set. And what do they invariably only have? They have probably a very expensive, but they only have a mobile phone. One of the things that we find when we do our research into demographic reach of our products that we produce for our clients is the amazing thing is that so many people do not have a personal compute device other than a mobile phone. It is quite remarkable. If you see the people coming out of universities, and you might find this absolutely astronomical to see this. It's a lot of people have a laptop which they hardly use, but most of their personal compute time is on a mobile phone. So anything, so not only do you need to make sure that your esports products and your whole iGaming products are mobile first, because that actually is where your major market is. We need the infrastructure to support that mobile first approach, which is why 5G, the evolution, if you like, of our mobile cellular networks is so crucially important to all businesses, irrespective of whether it's iGaming or whatever. But iGaming particularly is a very heavily data driven product set normally.
This is a really good point you made there as well with esports. Of course, the competitors are going to be extremely passionate about low latency, right? So that's going to be one of the frames per second, low latency, are the two massive metrics that matter most to the competitors. So whether that's at home, on the move, as you say, from mobile, or again, this comes back to the tournament in a hall, 5G will be ideal technology for that, for sure. So I was a bit skeptical about the richness of content. Being a bit of a cynic and being around through the era of multiple poker games going on at the same time for one individual, so the return on investment maximized because you've got loads of games on the go, to seeing like I don't know if you remember the PKR offering, so like the PlayStation offering where we've all got our own avatar and we can produce a tell when we look at our cards, and this really rich gaming atmosphere, really replicating the true poker experience. And that didn't get as much traction as it should have done because we're just caring about playing the game, right? But making a living out of it rather than social. But it's interesting, Stuart, that we're seeing this change now in the way we consume and interact with content that we didn't see only 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm a bit of a techno geek, having worked in this space for a very long time. But one of the things I find really interesting is that 20 odd years ago, when you were trying to do any sort of outside broadcast, whether it's radio, TV, or whatever, you scrabbled around to try and find some sort of digital communications link to get you back to your audience, and invariably it was satellite. That's what you ended up having to use, and that's only just because you couldn't find anything to kind of plug your video camera into fundamentally, other than looking up at the sky. But what we're going to be seeing, one of the things that just for the audience, we were having a chat in a few days ago about this, what we were saying here. One of the things that we started talking about was Coca-Cola machines. Other forms of drink are available, but Coca-Cola machines or vending machines were permanent. There's a number of them that are permanently connected, and they basically, they tell head office, I'm running out of Sprite or whatever, send some now, or my power's been disconnected, or I'm raised in temperature and I need help. My drink is getting warm, type of thing. But where I'm going with this is that you will find, particularly with 5G, that you will buy product that already has that digital connectivity built into it. So you will find outside broadcast cameras, major broadcasters are already looking at this. How do they actually reduce their broadcast costs? Because if you've seen now, and then in my family we kind of joke about it that the major news broadcasters always seem to have a correspondent in the thick of it anywhere on the planet. They always seem to have a live broadcast there and then now, yeah. But how do they get that cost of broadcast down? And you might say, well, how does this relate to iGaming? Well, it's all about how do you get digital communications technology right to that person, and that's exactly what 5G will ultimately give us. You will find that product just innately has a digital connection. You don't have basically that digital connection is in all devices. You don't have to kind of Bluetooth it to your phone anymore and all that type of stuff. It will just have that digital connection ready to go.
And it's a little bit more than that. So
yes.
Not only will the product have its own digital connectivity, it'll have its own network, because with the technology enables us to, as a network operator, to slice our network for different applications. So the broadcast product will live on a different network slice to the car insurance product. So they can have their own dedicated virtual bit of the 5G network, specifically tailored for the application. Sorry, I'll keep interrupting you.
That's so interesting. That's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I was going to, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. Time absolutely flies when you're having fun. So you've kind of started to paint a picture there of the future for the iGaming sector in terms of 5G. Stuart, you mentioned the 5G replacing satellites. This is big news for lottery operators, etc. Of course, because they use satellite at the moment, they can shift over to 5G. Justin, you mentioned higher security there. I just wonder, super quickly, is there anything that folks should be aware in terms of, what else to look out for from the future, or anything? You mentioned privacy earlier and some security kind of concerns there, just to kind of put the icing on the 5G cake in terms of iGaming. Who'd like to jump in there first? Do you want to fire ahead, Stuart? Justin?
Yeah, one of the really exciting things we talked about is, so for those of you who are familiar with Apple Tag products, so these are little things that you can put on your keyring. They are using a really cool piece of technology, and they're basically leveraging everybody's Apple phone. They're creating something called a mesh network. So effectively, what we'll also be seeing, and what is already being talked about, is that, okay, I'm just at the edge, or I'm just outside a 5G network. However, within reasonable distance of me is somebody who has a similar mobile device who is on the 5G network. Can I piggyback off that guy to get onto the 5G network? And this is one of the really exciting things for this kind of technology, where we will be using mesh networking to extend the range of the cellular network. And I think that is really, really exciting. It goes kind of also back to the arena type of thing, whereas basically everybody's mobile phone becomes party to a complete network, and as we say, we call that mesh networking. And this is another piece of underlying kind of protocol that 5G will help to support. So we will see people's phones anonymously collaborating with one another to get data transfer.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. Justin, the stage is yours. What do you see for the future? What is, one or two things that the folks should absolutely take away?
So right now, 5G, straight fiber broadband replacement, very, very soon. All that amazing stuff like the mesh network, the extremely low latency, subconscious for the change that will make for sportsbook in particular, low latency right now. Again, the multi-devices per stadium. Think of the content you can produce. Think of applications the live applications you can have in that sort of environment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. Yeah, I had a great session about live yesterday, which is going to be available on demand. So I'm so sorry, but we've totally run out of time. We had a nice question there. We'll answer it offline. I just remains to thank so much Stuart Godfrey, Managing Director at Mcodo. Thank you so much, Stuart.
It's been my pleasure, guys.
Chief Digital Officer, Assure International. Thank you so much. My name is Oisin Lunny. Please, let's connect online on LinkedIn, build the iGaming Next online global family. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
My name is Jesper Kärrbrink, and I have the great pleasure of having Henrik Tjärnström with me here today. Henrik is the CEO of Kindred. Welcome, Henrik.
Thank you very much, Jesper.
I know that all successful CEOs are, and rightly so, are downplaying the rules when it comes to the development and the success of the company. But at the same time, it's very interesting to know who the person is that is on top of the ship, so to speak. So could we start with just a short, brief summary of who is Henrik Tjärnström?
Yeah, no, as you say, I'm very fortunate to be surrounded with so many good people, and I think that's been a benefit for us at Kindred throughout our history, that we have the pleasure of having sort of the best people around, and working together we have been able to create what we have done over the years. And I think that's something I just want to start with. But for me, it's I come from a Swedish background, as you say. I've worked both in construction company and with Skanska, the big Swedish one, but both in Sweden, but also internationally in London and in the UK. And that's actually when I was working for Skanska in the UK in 2003 that I got in contact with what is Kindred today, or Unibet back then. I was sort of asked by the board if I wanted to take over in the company and become the CEO. And that was, of course, an extreme challenge, but also something I was really keen on taking on and trying and seeing. And having worked 2.5 years together with Petter very closely and with a very good cooperation, I felt that I had a good opportunity. But we were for sure facing some challenges back then. But we've been successful by having a good team, as I said, and we're here. We are today.
Indeed, you have. And I don't think anyone regrets that the move you made there. But at the same time, it's quite a move from construction to gaming. It's one of the furthest I've heard about. But this also shows that leadership is much more than knowing the industry. It's as you say, it's building good teams and good people. So basically, you could come from any industry, couldn't you, and go to another industry?
I think so. It's of course you have to be sort of interested in the products, and gambling has been close to me for throughout, in a sense. So it's nothing new in that sense. And I was, but clearly, I think what is applicable from what I worked with within Skanska was kind of really big projects and stuff. And as you know from your work life as well, Jesper, it's a lot about business, it's about projects and managing and sort of working together, and it's together we create results. And I think that kind of knowledge and experience has been very valuable in also in Unibet and Kindred.
I agree to 100%. But I think you said something very important there. You have to love the product, and this is where I never applied for a job as in a leadership job for an insurance company or something like that, because there's no fun in it. Or it might be, but I can't find it. But you're right. You have to love the product, and if you love the product, you can basically jump into any industry as being a leader. But it's the love that comes through. And now I think it's one of my favorite topics. So we talk a lot about it at least, and we all been involved in it, and that's responsible gaming. And for me, responsible gaming is a business decision. It's about building a sustainable business and keep your customers. And I still want to say, you might disagree with me here, but we were quite early on this one with Svenska Spel, and we implemented this as Mr. Green as well. But I think, looking at this at the large, we did a lot of things, both these companies. But I think you have had one of the broadest approach to responsible gaming when it comes to how you invested in it and how you built it in. But my question here is this part of your customer strategy, or is this part of your CSR strategy?
No, but it's been an important part of our strategy and thinking and way of working for many years, and it's at the core of what we do. And we really, as I said, we build on trust, and that's not only trust between us as individuals within the company, but also between us and the customers. And you know, we've had a sort of a a principle that we want to have a lifelong relationship with our customers, taking part of their entertainment budget for life. But it should be just that. It should be the entertainment budget, and it should be for fun and what people can afford to play for. So that's where we sort of come from, and that's how we want it to be. And we have invested very early, and we for me, I've seen this since basically 2010, 11, when we were going for these local licenses in the respective markets, and we were starting to roll out that strategy. And also when we saw the tightening regulations coming across Europe and now spreading to US and Australia and other places, that this is a key topic for everyone, and the one who takes care of the customer in the best way possible will be kind of the one that's best opportunity. And we have embedded that into our culture and how we work, and we're actually very pleased that we can say hand on heart that we see a business value from working in this area and focusing on this as much as we do. And I think that's where it has to start, in a sense that you have that in the kind of DNA of the organization to really focus on this. And there's of course, as you know, 98% of the adult population enjoy gambling, but 2% are in the risk zone, and those are 2% that we work very hard to try to get to have a healthy relationship with gambling, and it's individuals behind all these kind of numbers as well. So that's also very, very important, that no one wants to neither work for a company that's creating problems for their fellow citizens or really have those situations in your family either, in a sense. So it's a core of what we do, and we really invest a lot in it, and we will continue to do so as well.
Good, I like it. And no, you've done a fantastic job there, and for me, it's also one of the things that makes this industry so interesting. It's a kind of an intellectual challenge to balance the selling and the non-selling, and that's why we started to. We were doing these tools to kind of try to find the people that shouldn't buy the product that much, and at the same time that we are trying to develop a product that people really wants to enjoy and use and stay for a long time. And this balance is what makes this industry so challenging. And you also launched the Zero Vision, and I like that a lot. I mean, I love the concept. It's bold, but it's also a bit risky in the sense, because I mean, my first question is it theoretical possible to have a zero vision, because we know that 2% of the population are predestinated to gamble or overconsume our products, and is that, and so what's your view on this?
Yeah, as I said, it's in this kind of if you put it like 60% of the adult population is gambling, and 98% of those 60% are doing it for fun and more of a social aspect, and 2% is in the risk zone, and but 0.5% of the 100% is sort of a pathological gamblers, and those are the ones that should not gamble in the first place. And clearly a lot of the benefits of the locally regulated systems with the common self-exclusion registers and everything is a big step in the right direction, but it's not enough in a sense. And for us, as I say, there are individuals behind these numbers, and creating tragedies for themselves and their families. And just want to make it clear that for us, it's crystal clear that we don't want to have problem gamblers on our platform. That's a starting point. But I'm very convinced that we can get very close to it ourselves, or we can get close to it ourselves. But the more cooperation and the better the system allows for channelization and everything, the easier it will be for us, but also then for everyone else in the industry as well to get closer to that number. Because with today's technology and data processing power and artificial intelligence, and if we can use technology for good, we are convinced that we are very much part of the solution and not the problem here. And it's by having a sustainable regulation that creates that opportunity for everyone.
And I still, even though I'm not on an operator side anymore, I'm still thinking a lot about this one. And I'm coming down to affordability checks. In theory, if I only could spend what I can afford, then this problem would have been gone, so to speak. If I can afford to spend 1,000 euros a month and I spend 900, then it's not the problem. But if I go above that, then it's when the problem starts. So, do you think we will have technical solutions for this going forward? Will we find it? I mean, Sweden, it's an open society. We have bank ID. We have direct transfer, direct access to the tax authorities and numbers, etc., etc. Wouldn't it be possible to do pretty decent affordability checks, and by that kind of already from the start seeing that this person is probably gambling for more than he could afford or she could afford? Will that be going forward?
Yeah, as you say, in countries where that is possible, you have a better sort of 360 view of the customer, and that is sort of a big part of it. But as you know, also in most countries, the same data is not readily available, and that's where the sort of challenges start. But I think it's worth looking at it and starting from the point of view of the customer. And as you say, it's a very individual. It has to be individual based and going more or less customer by customer, because no customer is the other alike in a sense. And it's about, exactly as you say, what can a certain customer afford to play for, and that varies across. And that's why these blanket levels that we see sometimes being talked about and some companies implementing, they are completely blunt in the case, because those levels, you can rest assured, is going to be way too much for quite a few people, and it's going to be way too little for others, and you just run the risk then in a sense of pushing customers to the black market. And that's unfortunately in a sense with these deposit limits that we've seen in Sweden as well, that that's exactly what's happening there, that rather than having customers within one operator and being able to see the customer in a better way, if their limit is put on 5,000 Swedish per week, then and if it's 100 operators licensed, you can gamble away 500,000 anyway every week without being breach of the system, which makes it virtually impossible for everyone to keep control of the customers that really need that control. So I think it's an important part of it, the affordability checks, but it's just one element, and again, it has to be individually based.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And back to the Swedish topic with the deposit limits, and deposit is probably the worst you can use, because it's not how much money I have in my wallet when I go into the restaurant. It's how much I spent in that restaurant that is the problem. And it's the same with gambling. It's not how much I deposit, because I deposit and withdraw, deposit and withdraw. It's about how much I lose, and that should be the limit. And we have that data. So I mean, I think we agree on this one. Good. And to something totally different. And a very hot topic these days, and that is blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So more on the philosophical level, this is, I had a debate over the weekend with some friends, and there are clearly two paths. One is saying this is totally ridiculous, this will never work, this is humbug, etc., etc. And the other group or part was kind of, no, but what's the difference between this and your money you have on your account? It's still digital. It's you don't have that value reserved somewhere, and basically it's, if people believe in it, then it will exist. So what's your view on this and iGaming? Will we see more and more? I mean, blockchain is one thing that probably could be used in play protection and so forth, but more cryptocurrency. What's your view on this coming to the industry?
Yeah, no, and I'm again first to admit that I'm not an expert in the field, but we've clearly followed the developments and have been doing for many years. We've sort of looked at this quite closely and seeing it, but as I said, also when it comes to, there's certain benefits for sure about it, and also, as you say, more with around the technology and how that can be used, and elements of crypto in sort of our payment solutions structure as well. But there is also, of course, the AML and those kind of topics as well that is featuring high on the agenda. So when regulations has been increasing throughout the last couple of years, that's putting further and further pressure on the industry as well to make sure that like you say, with affordability and AML and all those topics, that what is the source of funds and where does the money come from, and those kind of things, and that's still making it easier in the kind of the fiat currencies to sort of look at things in that way rather than crypto. But I think it's also one of those things, as you know, with AR, sort of we had sort of virtual reality, the VR and AR was sort of talked about a lot and that would be implemented into our games about 3-4 years ago as well. And I think crypto was also high on the agenda then. And I think these things will take shape and it will be part of the experience, but we're still not completely there, I would say, to do that. But of course, we're following developments very closely.
Good. I agree. This is still early. Blockchain technology that will be used in different ways, and I think at least. And cryptocurrency, we have casinos doing cryptocurrency. They're doing very well. It works. They live in a very volatile world, etc., etc. So for more of a long-term strategy, it might be wise to wait a bit, but still. Yeah, virtual reality. Yeah, when the hardware looks like my glasses now, then I think it will break through heavily, and it might be the same with crypto. When enough people believes in it and start to use it, we have to use it as well in the industry. But it's an interesting topic, and I think your advice is very, very clever here. We should follow this carefully and closely. And on that note, you're entering US, where we have the big brick and mortars realizing this now and starting to transform and acquiring companies to get online. So what advantages do you have as one of the pioneers in iGaming when you enter a virgin market like the US?
No, as you say, we've been looking at the US for a long time. We actually, basically since inception, we always choose not to take US business, which was a very sound decision back then. And when the UEGA kicked in 2006, we didn't feel anything from that because we were unaffected, but others were losing quite a lot at the time. So I think that was the first step. And then in 2012-13, we looked at New Jersey, then was opening up for casino online. And we looked at that very carefully and closely, and we still decided that it was too early for us at that time, and we wanted to see more about sports and what that would happen. But the PASPA was, of course, still in place. And when that got repealed in 2018, we had already taken a decision in 2017 that we would go into the US because we felt that it was getting to that time. But we have probably approached the US in a bit different way to most of our competitors, in a sense that we've clearly seen these kind of big pan-US partnerships being formed and announced, and that's not really in our DNA and way of working. And we've chosen more of a controlled expansion strategy for the US by trying to be selective, similar to what we have done in Europe and other places. And we're trying to do a careful analysis of the different states or countries on global level and seeing where would we have a good opportunity for profitable growth and be able to add value for our customers. And that's how we looked across the states in the US as well then back in 17-18, and we saw that even if it's going to be a bit more cumbersome for us to get market access in the different states, it will give us a better opportunity to have a clear and independent strategy and more optimal execution, and that's the basis that we have progressed on, and we have now, the team on the ground has done a fantastic job. It's a team built up by seconded people from Europe, but also local expertise added to those European experts. So we bring our 20 plus years of experience from Europe to the US and complementing that with the local expertise of the team on the ground, and the team has secured now access to up to 12 states, which cover more than a third of the US population, and it's still before some of the bigger states are sort of clear what's going to happen there as well. So I think we have a very good position, but of course it is a competitive market, as you say, both the bricks and mortars, but also the usual suspects from Europe is of course there as well. But at the same time, we look at this as more of a marathon and a long-term sort of challenge, and taking step by step and looking at the long-term customer experience is what we believe will differentiate us from most in the market. So it's about building the brand, but also investing in tandem with the brand and not investing too early. And so we're basically applying the the experience and knowledge that we have from Europe, and we see that it works as well in the US.
With other words, a classic Henrik/Kindred approach. A strong strategy, yes, impressive execution, a marathon, and you do it a bit stealth, under the radar. Henrik, it's been a true pleasure having this discussion with you, and thanks a lot, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Jesper. It's been a pleasure being part of it.
Good. See you. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
2020 brought about the change of a generation. The convenient, the predictable, the status quo, all disrupted. The true nature of the iGaming industry was revealed. Resilient, responsible, and creative. This October, it's time to lead the industry forward and redefine our relationship with each other and the wider investment and tech industries. Join us in the majestic World Heritage City of Valletta for disrupting the status quo.
It's our industry, it's our time, the future is ours.
This is iGaming Next 2021. Picture everything from hot potato conversations to the latest in-depth industry insights at your fingertips. iGamingNext.tv aggregates all of our thought-provoking content into one centralized and intuitive platform. What's more, filter through with ease, allowing you to stay at the cutting edge of the industry.
Value added, but they can also decrease costs and increase security.
Visit iGamingNext.tv.
We are live.
I think it comes down to doing what's right for the customer, which everybody can do. I mean,
but the feeling, the entertainment, the social features, the content value is there.
2020 brought about the change of a generation. The convenient, the predictable, the status quo, all disrupted. The true nature of the iGaming industry was revealed. Resilient, responsible, and creative. This October, it's time to lead the industry forward and redefine our relationship with each other and the wider investment and tech industries. Join us in the majestic World Heritage City of Valletta for disrupting the status quo.
It's our industry, it's our time, the future is ours.
This is iGaming Next 2021. Picture everything from hot potato conversations to the latest in-depth industry insights at your fingertips. iGamingNext.tv aggregates all of our thought-provoking content into one centralized and intuitive platform. What's more, filter through with ease, allowing you to stay at the cutting edge of the... Thank you so much, Jesper and Henrik. Fascinating session there. Welcome back to iGaming Next Online. My name's Oisin Lunny. I'm an event MC, marketing consultant, and podcast host for Fortune 500 companies. And I'm thrilled to be joining you all on the stage for the third time over these 2 brilliant days at iGaming Next Online. Now, to quote one of my favorite films, the cinematic masterpiece Zoolander, cryptocurrency is so hot right now. Now, the iGaming space is, of course, no slouch when it comes to adapting new, exciting technologies, and cryptocurrencies do certainly seem to be driving transformation at an intense pace. So let's take a moment to go back to basics with one of the leading experts in the field and explore cryptocurrency and its impact on the future of iGaming and sports betting. Please welcome to the iGaming Next Online stage the COO at Coin Gaming Group, Anita Brink. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much, Thorsten. Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here. So let's dive right in. It is so hot right now. There's a lot of debate around what cryptocurrency actually is. The clue's in the name. It's some people look at it as a currency, other people look at it as an asset. And there's a bit of a debate going on. What's your take on this asset versus currency thing?
Right. I do agree with you that there is a lot of debate. And as it stands today, I would say that mostly people view it as an asset. It's almost like a gold. And and it's been so for a while. However, I feel that the trends are changing slowly, and even the governments are looking into the cryptocurrency vertical, like so El Salvador. So the government will be accepting cryptocurrency as a normal standard currency and won't tax it anymore. So this is a great move, actually, from the government aspect. So there are movements into taking the cryptocurrency from a place where it's just treated as an asset to a place where it can be an everyday currency, where you can pay for your coffee, you can pay for your Coca-Cola with cryptocurrency. There's certain things that need to happen prior it is being adapted to mainstreams, and some of the developments such as Lightning Network, for example, will help to assure and create a framework for the mainstream people to adopt it for everyday consume, basically. So yeah, to answer your question in short, currently I would lean towards saying it's an asset. However, it's moving into a currency, an everyday currency.
Interesting. Of course, we have those famous stories of people buying a pizza for a Bitcoin, which is now worth, of course, tons more than a pizza. And the volatility gives rise to some interesting stories about what you exchange it for at the time. But, the Coin Gaming Group has been very visible in this world of cryptocurrencies for a long time. Why did you decide to get into the space? What were the drivers there?
So, since day one, our mission has been to put the customer in the center of the universe, and then to ensure that they have a very smooth experience while they are using our product and our platform. And we realized very early on that we can't really satisfy the end user to the level that it's seamless, it's fast, it's trusted, it's fun for the end user. So fiat wasn't working for us, basically, and we looked around, and cryptocurrency was obviously an option, and it offered us all the solutions that we were looking for. It had the speed, it had the openness, it had the decentralization aspect of it, fast withdrawals, fast deposits, all of it. So we definitely jumped on the train there as soon as possible, as soon as we noticed that this is something for us to explore further. And we quickly realized that the customers actually very much appreciate the fact that they can make 50 transactions a day back and forth with no fees and no limitations. It's just very convenient.
Absolutely. So that focus on the user experience, the customer experience, has really driven your adoption of the new technology. But, I'm sure I'm not the only person who is attending iGaming Next Online who feels like they would like to know a bit more about cryptocurrency and how it all fits together. And I know that this is an area that you look at yourselves in terms of educating the market. What are some of the things you're doing? What are some of the resources that people should be aware of, myself included?
Yes, this is a hot topic, actually. How do we share the knowledge of cryptocurrencies? How do we make it more accessible? How do we make it more understandable? Because from very early days, cryptocurrencies have had this flavor of this is very tech savvy and this is very complicated, and it's hard to get the coins. It's hard to convert, and onboard and off ramps are difficult. We've tried to change that perception. And we've tried to give back to the community and increase the awareness of cryptocurrency per se by doing through sportsbet.io. We did Bitcoin sleeve sponsorship with Watford, for example. Just last week, we were in Miami giving away Lambo during the biggest Bitcoin conference. We have Bitcoin Talk Forum, where we've raised and turned around this perception that crypto is negative, and it had this negative flavor back in the day. So we feel that we've actually established and cleared that name a little bit, if I may say so. So it's really rewarding. Yes. Learn Crypto is another website that we have created to give back to the community, a non-profit website where we educate the users, anyone really. Everyone is welcome to join the website and just read about what is crypto, how does it work, what are the first steps to onboard into this crypto world. Because we do understand that there's a lot out there in the internet, and it might be confusing for someone who's not used to cryptocurrencies and who's not holding any coins at this moment.
Fascinating. Yeah. My friend Peter McCormick was out at that Bitcoin conference and I saw him, kind of leaning against a Lamborghini doing a selfie. The Learn Crypto website sounds fantastic. Sounds like I should absolutely visit that immediately, which I hope I'll be joining many people at the conference and doing. So you're really investing in the future of the whole idea of cryptocurrency. You're really putting, your money and educational resources there for the whole community to level up. But what, this brings us to your vision of the future. What do you think cryptocurrency could become, and what does it mean to the iGaming space?
Cryptocurrency is one of the crypto in general for iGaming. I feel it's one of the fastest growing segments in the gaming industry. So it's taking over the traditional fiat methods fast, and this is the future. It doesn't matter whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's Ethereum or Litecoin or any other coin, but it is the decentralization of how the money movements are functioning, and this is the future. It's at the moment it's only for the money movements. Later on, it might as well be adapted also to sports betting with smart contracts. The concept of decentralization can be much wider than it is today. And as I said,
Totally.
Lightning Network is something that will help to adapt the cryptocurrencies for wider audiences in the coming years, most certainly, because it will decrease the time it needs, the transaction needs to take, and the fees, and you'll be able to deposit and transfer smaller amounts within no time and with no fees whatsoever.
Excellent. So the Lightning Network certainly seems like a technology that the delegates should be aware of. It should be on their radar. But is there anything else that, any other benefits that come under the hood of working with cryptocurrencies that specifically iGaming companies should be aware of?
I mean, the decentralized finance in itself, obviously, all the new innovations within that bubble would definitely be something I would be looking into when it comes to iGaming. AI, machine learning. You can learn so much more about your user when everything is in this decentralized network. You can learn how they spend, where do they go, what do they do. This also can help you in other areas of the operations, such as tracking, doing your checks and balances on the user, seeing how they're doing, where else they are spending their funds or their time, helping you with KYC procedures and KYC tracks and so forth.
Interesting. So it gives you more visibility, but it's in a very kind of discreet way because, privacy is very important, but you can really use it for very secure KYC operations. Do you think there is potential with the technology to help customers to play responsibly and to kind of address that area of that potential area of the business?
Absolutely. I think actually what blockchain offers also operators is to track these users at a very, very early stage when there is a problem player or player who has had issues before. They can be tracked a lot quicker and the operators can action up on them and check in with them whether everything is fine. And the same goes with KYC. With blockchain, you can actually trace the origin of the funds to the origin, which is incredible. You can't do that with fiat. And all of it is open for the public to use that information. It's anonymous, so it's there for you to go and take it. And you can know the minute there are any traces of any, worrying funds coming in, you can take immediate actions. You don't need to wait for anything. So that's certainly a benefit a huge benefit for blockchain and the doors that it opens to learn more about the end user. When it comes to social responsibility, this is obviously a hot topic for iGaming in general, and there are a lot of discussions on how to tackle it and how to protect these users who do have an issue with gaming and who can't control themselves. Again, having cryptocurrencies and blockchain and having set these thresholds in place and analyzing the user behavior is giving a head start for us to understand how are we going to cooperate with this user. What does good look like?
Fantastic. And do you see that this technology could potentially be offered, across the industry for different companies to get involved and to share this information and to help protect, problem users from accessing services that could be harmful?
Absolutely. I mean, to my knowledge, there are no such databases just yet out there that would store the users who do have an issue and give an indication to operators to do further checks. Do check in with the users whether they're okay with their levels of gaming and do. Oh, sorry, I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. All good. We're completely live here,
perfect.
folks.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So certainly there's a future for a network, a database where all of the transactions that are coming that have had some problem gambling related queries with it are marked. Absolutely. Decentralization offers that, and blockchain offers that.
That's incredible. I mean, to quote our mutual friend, Tim Heath, he said, for everything else, there's crypto. And it does absolutely feel like crypto is, in some cases it's an asset, in some cases it's a currency. Yeah. But what's really interesting, particularly for this space, is the technology stack that sits underneath it, that transparency, the fact that you can leverage AI, machine learning, decentralized sharing of information to protect customers. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. It's very interesting. So if any of the delegates are sitting there at the virtual screens thinking, wow, I need to know more about this, I'd like to speak to Anita. Is there anywhere that they should go? Any websites? What's your presence at iGaming Next Online? Where can people go after this session?
We do have a virtual stand in iGaming Next, so please do visit it and you can get in touch with us, or you can reach out to me directly via LinkedIn, obviously.
Okay, fantastic. And I think that goes for all of us here. It's very important to build this global family who are sharing knowledge, sharing best practice, expertise, future trends as part of the iGaming Next online global platform. And, please reach out to myself as well. Find us on LinkedIn and let's continue to build this incredible global network of experts who are sharing knowledge, best practice, and really inspiring visions of the future. So I'm afraid we are running out of time. That was a short and sweet session, but I found it absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much to Anita Brink for joining us and sharing these great insights and tips for the future. I think it's been incredibly useful.
Thank you so much, Ortin. It was lovely talking to you, and have a lovely day with the rest of the delegates.
Awesome. You too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to iGaming Next Online. I'm delighted to say now we're looking at a session on collaboration, gaming, and the competitive edge. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ragnar Tomper, Managing Director of One Touch Games, and Neil Howells, who's Director of Commercial Operations at Bombay Group. Welcome, both of you.
Good morning.
Morning. So, look, the pandemic has caused a lot of unfortunate industries to collapse. The iGaming industry is one of those industries that seems to have fared quite well out of it. It goes without saying the land-based sector's not done so well, but you seem to have found a unique or magical formula where you have the online and land-based sectors come together and formulated a great partnership. Tell us how that's come about.
In terms of the actual the land-based operation that we're currently building, etc., that was a concept from mutual friend Tim going back actually pre-pandemic times, etc. We have obviously the property we chose, etc., is currently under development, etc. But the concept overall is to provide this space, this entertainment space where those players that are predominantly based in the online environment, we can move them into a facility which we can entertain our customers. Our partners are able to entertain their VIP customers as well, and this is very, very high end. This is sort of like the Wales of the industry. And what we're creating is that environment which the transition between what they experience in the online theatre is almost seamless in terms of actually what they experience in the land-based operation. So this isn't us trying to create another casino in a land-based environment. In this environment, that'd be slightly nuts. But we're creating this environment where it's an entire experience, where we're able to literally offer that unique experience from literally pick them up from the front door, whether that be in Tokyo or Seoul, and we return them to their front door. And from that entire experience, from pickup, the private jet, chopper them in from wherever we have to fly them in from, and then utilizing this facility for ourselves and our partners to entertain their clients. It's certainly not all about, well, we'd like them to go into the gaming floor, absolutely, but in terms of the actual facilities we've got, they're extremely high-end restaurants. We own the hotel, we own all these different things, and it's very designed as a unique experience. It's give the cliche, but a money can't buy experience. There's nothing we won't provide, nothing we can't do for you. We're not looking volume here whatsoever. We're talking sort of very high end, sort of relatively low key in terms of the actual exterior. Beautiful property, a lot of money being spent on it, and our ambition is obviously to expand that concept globally.
And obviously, from One Touch side of things, as Neil mentioned, YOLO Investment is the principal investor in both of the companies. One Touch has been in the market for 4 or 5 years, running predominantly mobile table games, but also slots, working on other new verticals with arcade games. And then suddenly this madness started. Studios were going shut down due to pandemic problems across the industry, and our sort of thought leader Tim Heath got me, Neil, and a few other key people within various companies together behind the table. I think, gents, we believe there is an actual opportunity here. Obviously, One Touch knows how to build mobile games. Bombay has had a very good sort of track record in starting up this land-based operation. Can we do something very special online? So remits were given. I started looking for some very, very talented individuals that have built a live dealer before. Neil started looking for studio spaces, and suddenly, I think Neil, it's like less than 2 months to get the first couple of tables sorted out for a studio so that we can actually test the software against, and less than 6 months, and we were accepting our first bets in Baccarat.
Great.
So it was a very good and very quick turnaround for everything.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic. These things provide challenges, and I imagine the coming together of those two sides or two areas must have provided some quite challenges to that regard. Was that the case, or did you find it actually gave more opportunities than more?
In terms of the putting the two worlds together from an online and a sort of land-based operation, particularly the studios aside for the moment, the land-based operation. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of challenges in getting the right people. You have a predominantly online business entering into the world of hospitality, restaurants, bars, hoteliers, etc. We've been very fortunate in that we've managed to recruit some very talented people in terms of Anton and Bart, two guys are working for us, Anton Yolkin and Bart Defoe, two very talented individuals who are able to sort of guide and put together the entire sort of hospitality package from the high end. In regards to the studios, yeah, obviously putting those together in an extremely rapid period of time was a huge team effort from particularly from our property department, locating it, building it, etc. Significant recruitment, and yeah, there's been a few bumps in the road, as a wise man once said, in terms of actually how we actually got there, and we're still to some extent learning how to refine this offer and make it exactly how we want to be. We're not planning on becoming the biggest in the industry, but we certainly want to be by far the market leader in our little niche that we want to, which is that ultra high end sort of VIP experience. Excuse me. So yeah, a lot of challenges recruiting the right people and being in the right environment at the time.
And Ragnar, how this concept is not just about technology; it's much more than that. Did you find that was the case?
Yes. Even though I'd like to come back for a second to technology, because there's also a fair chunk of technology that you need to put together if you haven't done it before. Working from the studio environment, the camera syncs, the video streams, you need to distribute the video to all parts of the world. How you achieve that efficiently, and we, being lucky that we actually managed to get a few key people that have done it before as well was very important to us, that we didn't have to actually start from very scratch. But obviously from my side as well, getting Tago and Maxim, who have done it before, absolutely paramount for getting it over the line in such a short space in time. But then on the other hand, and this is where actually the collaboration with Neil really needs spotlight. It's not entirely just about the technology. It's actually catering what the player wants. Our customer in the end is a B2B operator, someone that runs casinos, but our ultimate customer is the player, and we must make sure that he stays in the center of our universe, that we cater to the player needs. He's entertained, he feels safe in the environment, he knows that there is maybe something else at the end of the rainbow. So yes, providing the dealers camera training, providing the dealers actor classes, so that they actually would feel comfortable working the long shifts in the studio. There are a lot of things to consider just in that little offering that we do.
Yeah, and we talk about the live space. Do you think it's going to develop, and what can we see in the near to distant future in terms of that live space?
In terms of the live space, then obviously we're looking to the plan is ultimately to have 5-6 of these properties globally. Where we are right now is obviously we're based in Estonia. That will cater for a certain part of the market, but our ambition is to have at least 4 or 5 of these properties globally, in the next 4 years, 5 years, depending on what we can do with that. I suppose how will we judge success? So they all say imitation is the best form of flattery, and if other operators move into this, because like I said, this is not all about just opening a casino so people can come and play. It's about the whole experience, and yeah, we want to see this grow, and we have a very talented, energetic, sometimes hectic team who work pulled together. So onwards and upwards, as they say.
Ragnar?
And I think you occasionally have to applaud your competition. I think Evolution has done a great job in setting a standard in the market of what the player expects. I think putting the entertainment catering for the new generation of gambler, putting together the game shows. I think there is still a lot more to come from that market segment because the younger people they don't see it as much as gambling as really entertainment. You take your crazy time or whatever. They are amazing concepts, and definitely I can see a few companies trying a few other of those things, and we have a few little ideas in our mind. But also we cannot forget the sort of your quintessential baccarat player, and we feel like there is a proper niche of making that player feel special, both in the world that we are building on the One Touch side, but also in the world that Neil is building in the Bombay side. So by catering that unique experience that he would love to come back and play with that player dealer, whether it's in the online, whether it's in the land-based environment. If he enters the online experience and then he feels welcome, he knows that this environment is tailored for him. There is a lot of things we can do to make it feel special.
Great. Well, look, I look forward to those little nuggets you got up your sleeve that may come out in the future. But listen, that was very very insightful. So thank you very much, Ragnar and Neil, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rory.
And the founders and I, in the early days when they recruited me, one of the vision was to make it into a gaming group. Obviously, gaming group require a mindset of going from a single brand into a multi-brand. And organization need to understand what are the benefits of the multi-brand, but also what are the challenges of operating a multi-brand environment. Multi-brand is not only a platform or technology, it's a state of mind, it's understanding, its approach across the business, from branding, operation, delivery, anything. So I think that this was something that I started with Kazumo, and we are now Kazumo, Dunder, Casino Secret, and Kazum, and the transformation.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the great debate, NFTs and iGaming. I am the moderator for this session. My name is Fiona Hickey. I'm head of sales at Push Gaming, and I'm also one of the advisors for iGaming Next. I am joined by two what I would call industry veterans and long-time professionals of our space and experts. We have Stefan Kovac, who's the managing director of Think Changers, and we have Tim Heath, who's founder of Coin Gaming Group and also one of the partners at YOLO Investments. Guys, welcome to the panel.
Thanks, Thank you.
I would like to quickly start off by saying, before I started researching for this debate and panel, I knew absolutely nothing about NFTs. And as one of my kind friends said, it's NFCs, no freaking clue. So I think it would be really good if, after we do a very brief intro to you both, we also quickly summarize what NFTs are for the panel, or sorry, for our audience, because I think most of them will be similar to me. So Stefan, do you want to give a very quick intro to yourself? And then we can dive right in after Tim as well.
Sure thing. Yes. So I run a business called Think Changers. We specialize in kind of digital and blockchain consultancy with a focus on gaming and gambling. My background has been prior to kind of shifting into consultancy. I was CEO of a decentralized gambling application called Funfair, built on the Ethereum blockchain. So kind of 3 years of very hands-on experience, really at the coalface of blockchain technology, which was super interesting, super exciting. And then prior to that, about 10 years working with PokerStars, various roles within that organization.
You've done your time then, safe to say.
I've done my dues. Yeah, I've done my dues. And then prior to that, kind of internet startup since the late 90s. I'm giving my age away.
Perfect. Great. And Tim, would you like to give the viewers a little insight into yourself, seeing as no one's ever heard of you over the last couple of days?
No.
Yeah, I've just sprung out of the forest like a mushroom. We started the Coin Gaming Group in 2014, obviously with Bit Casino, and then 2016 was Sportsbet.io. I would hopefully say the preeminent crypto-based gaming operation in the world, with a huge amount of experience on delivering that fun, fast and fair experience. The key USP was simply we could pay winnings out, whether it be €1 or €500,000 within 1 minute to the customer, which as a former poker player, that's what we'd always, what I always wanted as well. So crypto for us was simply the rails of how we could transfer and accept a bet of a trusted unit of value, and then if someone wins, we could pay that out very, very quickly. Since that, we're still obviously growing very, very nicely, but I've taken a step forward into running our VC fund called Yellow Investments, and having a lot of fun getting back to that kind of entrepreneurial spirit as opposed to a corporate organisation. And I think we've made.
Bet you are. Every time I have a call with you, you're on the road somewhere new, looking at some more exciting things. So I feel like Tim's just living the dream and just having a great fun.
Kid in the candy shop.
Took 20 years to get there. Don't forget that. But
exactly, it's been a lot of hard work that's gotten you there for sure.
We've made about 70 investments now, about 300 million assets under management, and our focus is clearly in the iGaming sector, in the fintech sector, and also the crypto and everything crypto around that as well, and how we build an ecosystem around what's going on with the Coin Gaming Group. So a lot of fun, and obviously NFTs are they're popping up in all different places at the moment, and people looking for investment. A very hot asset, one would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that brings us to it. So guys, this is a debate. It's going to be slightly more lively. I'm going to jump in and interrupt you guys probably more than most moderators do, because we want to make it engaging and educate kind of people as much as we can in terms of where they're not overly up to date in them and where they should invest if they are going to invest. But first of all, let's put this aside. So we have Stefan, who is very pro NFT. We have Tim, who is pro NFT, but is very much talking about iGaming and how we continue with NFTs in our space. So not a traditional opposites in terms of the debate, but definitely you guys have opposing views on some things. So I think it would be really great if we could start by a quick 30-second cap on NFTs and actually what they are. Tim, do you want to jump in? I know Stefan normally does this, but I think it would be good for Tim to do it for a change.
I'll have a shot. NFT is it's a non-fungible token. Basically, one would consider it to be a digital asset, which you can certify the authenticity of that asset, digital asset. So it's unique, that it cannot be reproduced, or you can trace the certification of the asset on the blockchain. And of course, then you can apply a value through simple market economics that I have an asset that someone wants to buy, and that will determine a market price for it. And normally they're bought and sold through decentralized marketplaces.
Cool. And Stefan, as someone who has invested heavily in NFTs and loves looking at your portfolio on a day-to-day basis, you want to talk us through kind of what you have been looking at recently and kind of some of the NFTs that you've bought as examples for the listeners?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I'm slightly less interested in the art side. I'm more interested in kind of the collections and the collectible assets that are out there. So I'm very fortunate to have a CryptoPunk, which I bought last year. Should have bought more with hindsight.
Want to tell everybody how much you paid for it, Stefan?
At the time, I thought I was being silly. It was several thousand dollars. It's now worth probably, I think it's come down a little bit, by about 50,000. So, and CryptoPunks are kind of unique, I think, in that they were the first. They will always be the first, so they're kind of the caveman drawings of the NFT world, and that's why they kind of, I think, will hold value kind of moving forward. And obviously we've seen them being sold in Sotheby's in New York and London, et cetera, et cetera. So, but that's kind of one end of the spectrum. There's many other much lower value NFTs out there. So I collect something called Avastars. Avastars is a really gamified, and there's a random component in it. In fact, it's kind of, there's some really quite clear analogies to gaming and gambling actually within that collection. And then there's lots of gaming assets you can own, you can even create as NFTs. So I kind of focus more in that area of collectibles. I've also got some of the NBA collectible stuff. Rather than the art side.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, so when I was kind of looking into this and talking to some people within our business, we kind of looked at this, the collector's route. We all know how popular streamers are within our space, and streamers love something unique. They love merch, they love a giveaway, they love a prize. And what we were talking about internally is whether there could be something of creating unique collections as a studio, for example, like us at Push, creating things that could be released to streamers or released to players for winning certain things. Do you think that that is something that will be adopted within our industry and will be something that people try to look at to engage with the audience directly a little bit more? Tim?
Which wall do you put an NFT on?
I mean, yes, so of course, NFTs obviously are not going to sit and hang on your wall. But I think visually, if you're a streamer and you're presenting, you can probably have a collectible in the background that people can easily see when you're on stream.
Yes, but my fundamental issue with this is, what do you actually do with them? Is it based on an ego that you've collected something of which has a certain amount of rarity, and that defines its price? And it's nearly, and I go back to the poker playing days. It was all about ego, and I'm playing full tilt on the nosebleed stakes, and people knew you for that. I think if we look at trading cards, back in the day, we also collect trading cards from Australian football or from soccer or whatnot. That's something where the NFTs of limited supply can be used, but simply buying digital artwork that is very easily reproduced, it's only really for you to know yourself that this is rare and you have the number one, the original one. I believe NFTs will come into a space when it's got utility, when it can be used to track a lineage, when it can be used to do something useful, that enables something else to happen. So by all means, if we could look at something within the streaming world that if you win something, if you get a collectible as a prize, and then can go and do something, and you can prove your ownership of that collectible, which enables something else, I think that then becomes a very interesting scenario. And then that experience which could come from it could be bought and sold as well, and you can track the authenticity of it. That's maybe where it can evolve to.
I get it. I would slightly disagree with you. I think a streamer having something that's unique from a studio or whoever is no different to you having those football jerseys signed behind you. We can all see at the moment. So it is very much about what people put a price on, what's unique. But absolutely, I agree. I think what would be really interesting for people to understand is your opposing views on how you guys think it's going to shape iGaming, because NFTs are very much popular within the art world and within the collectible sector. What do you feel is the best adoption of NFTs within our space, particularly for operators? And how do you see that moving over the next 5 years? Stefan?
Can I just, before answering that, can I just disagree with Tim? So
yes, of course you can.
On the
Always.
art world, on the art world piece, look, there's clearly a bubble, right? And there's a lot of nonsense out there. But fundamentally, what is happening, crypto brought the ability to transfer value between two individuals in a trustless way anywhere on the planet. Okay, that is phenomenal. Okay, it's a phenomenal technology and a phenomenal breakthrough.